Thanks a lot. Good morning, everyone. Good night there in America. Good afternoon, I guess, in the east. But yeah, we are ready for some morning golf here. Ready with Red Kitsune in commentary. How are you doing?
I am doing good. I am awake. I am ready for some golf.
Alright, I'm sure many people in chat, or at least some people in chat, remember this game from back in the arcades in the mid-90s. It was kind of a big deal, actually. It was kind of a big game back then. It's from the same developers as Metal Slug, but I think we can get going and explain everything as we go. So, we had a bit of a bit war between two characters. We have 6 characters in the game, each one with different stats. And I do believe it was Fernando Almeida who won this one, which I'm very happy about because he's the most, he's the faster character and in my opinion the most fun to play. And we have 4 courses to complete. And the timer starts when I select the first course in 3, 2, 1, and go. So, this game, yes, as it said in chat, comes originally from the arcades, and this is a Switch port actually, playing it on the Nintendo Switch. Right? Whole one is always pretty easy. And it kind of differentiates itself from other golf games. The fact that if you are familiar with like Mario Golf, that game you start your stroke. You start your hit with the press of a button. You start moving the meters and all that. Here the power meters start moving automatically on their own. So what that basically means is that you do have kind of a limited time to line up your shot, because you don't want to waste cycles on that power meter, which starts moving automatically. You want to hit it always on the first cycle if possible. And there I kinda messed up. Yeah, I should have gone for a lower club here. I have a set of notes which I'm trying to read from in between holes. Between holes we have these small cutscene that plays. If you messed up, golfer is upset. Not, he celebrates.
So, in order to go fast, what do you want is always hit, or at least the most possible in the first cycle, and you want to do the less strokes possible in each hole, no?
Yeah.
That's the main speed gaming of this game. Hit the less and hit quick.
That's right. Would say that's right. Because pretty much each shot takes the same amount of time to do. You have to wait for the meter and all that. Oh, okay, we have a contest. Well, I'll explain that later as well. So, for each hit, you kind of trying to focus on this hole. This was a difficult hole. I'm sorry.
In this, as in any golf game, when you miss these kind of things, that you have put yourself in some hard spot and you have to really move around some tree or something in order to get again on the track or to the green.
So I was saying, pretty much the way to go fast is to minimize the number of shots All right, had some good intention. It's really difficult to chip the ball in from outside the green. This is originally an arcade game. It doesn't make any concessions to you.
By the way, where is the RNG in this game? What is different each time you play?
That's a good question. There are several RNG factors that you kinda need to read before you make your shot. You kinda have to pay very close attention to them. One of them is wind, wind direction, and wind strength. That's randomly decided for each hole. Kind of a difficult path there. And then the green layouts, like where the slopes are and all that. The green layouts are always the same. What is different every time for greens is the location, the exact position of the hole or the pin. Where in the green it is, on the front, on the back. It's
and it can be in some slope, it can be in a very awkward place to be, no?
Yeah, of course, if the hole is on a slope, then way more difficult to deal with. And what else? Also, some greens have a grain indicator. This green has no grain. Good path here. That was kind of an awkward pole position. The grain in actual golf kinda is caused by pretty much the way the grass is cut. And it can basically push the ball a little bit in a certain direction. Alright. So, there are different versions of this game, as I said. The Switch version, which I think is also in the Xbox, in Xbox One, for example, is pretty much a direct port of the arcade version. It's also playable. It's playable in pretty much every platform available.
And this version, the Switch version, is slowest, is faster than others for the speed running.
Actually, the fastest version for speedrunning is the Neo Geo CD version. For a series of factors. It's got the same holes, the same mechanics, but as a CD-based console, it has loading screens before each hole. It has loading screens before each hole, which you would think make that version slower. But it actually lets you... Oh, damn. That's poorly judged. It actually lets you skip a lot of the unskippable cutscenes that the arcade version has. No problem. So it ends up being faster after all. I do believe the world record for the Neo Geo CD version is 45 minutes. The regular arcade version is 49 minutes.
Penalty for overpower.
Yeah, despite everything. The Neo Geo CD version, now that we have another longest drive contest, the Neo Geo CD version has a Grand Slam mode that lets you play like all 4 circuits, one after the other, and that mode doesn't even have the contests. Those contests are pretty annoying because they give you an extra cutscene at the beginning of the hole. But worse yet, if you actually win it, you have to sit through another cutscene, which takes like around 10 seconds.
So you never want to win this kind of contest?
Player 1, shot.
Right, this... Ooh, I actually pulled this off.
Ooh.
Yeah, that's a really tricky shot to make the green in one hit. Then you actually have to get it in. There we go.
Oh,
Right,
okay,
nice eagle.
Here's the eagle of the run.
Really, really nice. Yeah, that's not really easy to pull off. You can only feasibly do it with this character from Almeida in third contest. You usually get 2 contests per course.
So in some sense, this character is like the riskier, no? Because you have less control here in the path, but you have more possibilities to get less strokes.
Yeah, it's harder to putt, as I'm showing here. But the thing is, he's the strongest character by far. He has the longest drive, which allows for some strats like the one we just saw in the previous hole. And the fact that he has basically no control, or he has basically no control over where he shots. You saw his stats before starting. It was pretty much the lowest and everything. That plays in our favor as well, because that means that the power meters actually go faster. Actually move faster than for our characters. Really messing up my putts lately.
Penalty for overpar.
But oh well. Yeah, in order to go fast, you really want to minimize the number of hits. Now comes one of the hardest holes in the game, actually. Let's see if I can shoot this well. In the bunker, not ideal, but at least it didn't go out of bounds. And that's the first shot. From here, I should be able to make the green. Right, yeah, so I didn't actually lose any shots in this hole. As I said, one of the most difficult ones. Then again, kinda awkward to putt. This game it's interesting because if you are, for example, a little bit familiar with other golf games such as Wii Sports Golf, in that game there are some holes in which it is optimal to actually send the ball out of bounds intentionally and repeatedly until the game kicks you out to the next hole. In this game this is never the case. The optimal strategy is always trying to sink the ball into a hole with the least hits possible. Okay, that's really bad.
One stroke penalty. Once
Okay.
more.
Pay a little bit more attention. Should be fine.
Because in each hit you have to think about changing the if you need to change the what you are going to use in order to make the hit, you have to think in the wind, you have to think in if you want to give it some kind of a spin or some effect.
Yeah, it's tricky. It's tricky because yeah, you have like a couple of seconds while the meter fills up to kind of assess all of these random factors. So yeah, it definitely can be a little bit tricky. And then we completed the first circuit, and once we sink the ball in the 18th hole in each circuit, we'll just reset the game and move on to the next one.
Flies for birdie.
The order in which you do the circuits is up to a runner. I like to start with Japan and Germany first because they are the two that are hardest for me, or the two that I think are the hardest in the game.
Player 1, second shot.
Just get them out of the way first.
Player 1, birdie try.
All right. Sorry.
How this game works in the arcade? The quarters you put is the holes that you can do, or how how was the way to work this arcade?
So basically, each quarter you put into the arcade machine basically gives you 3 holes. We kind of see at the end of each hole there's a counter, like for example, here it says 98 holes left. But in the arcade, you actually start with only 3 holes when you put in a quarter. So just the Switch version, you can just change the settings. I personally set it to like 99 holes per crate, so I don't have to worry about continuing.
So in the arcade, you have to do birdies and eagles in order to be able to keep
Absolutely.
playing, no?
Absolutely, because if you get a hole under par, you actually get +1, or if you manage to get an eagle or better, +2 or even +3 for holding one. It's so difficult to get a holding one.
Player 1, tee shot.
Have you been able to do it?
I managed to do it only once. Because as I said, it is super difficult to chip the ball in from outside of the green. Like if the ball doesn't go with the perfect amount of strength and perfect accuracy, it just bounces out of the pin. Just it won't go in unless all the stars align.
Player 1, tee shot.
As I said, I'm kinda reading my notes between each hole.
That the notes is more or less telling you how far you have to throw the ball, or if you
Yeah,
have
it's
to change anything.
kind of like a route for the speedrun. And think of it this way. In order to at least more or less know what to do in each hole before I get into the hole.
Player 1,
And then, of course, I still have to react to the wind. And all that, but it makes things a little bit easier. That's going to go way out. Actually, into green.
The green, on the green.
player 1, eagle try.
And you mentioned the music.
Player 1, birdie try.
This game is actually from the same developers as Metal Slug. So if it sounds kind of familiar, to you, then yeah, it's because the same people who work on this game later made Metal Slug. That's on the green. Basically, the fringe or the edge of the green also counts as green in this game, so no worries. So, but of course, that's a really difficult part. But I think it's a really fun game to play, even to run. You probably wouldn't think probably wouldn't think of that as a of a golf game, but it's pretty fast paced. Ooh, yeah, see?
Ooh.
Yeah, the game does not make any concessions. You will hit the pin and just bounce right off it if the power isn't exactly perfect. Some longest drive. This is a hard hole, so it's kind of a uncomfortable one to have a longest drive in. Did I win the longest drive? Oh no, actually no. Okay, I'm going to risk it here. I'm going to take a risky shot. Alright, at least I didn't go out of bounds. I tried to shoot for the green straight in the second shot there, which you can do in this hole if you took a very long first drive or a tee shot. That's okay, so not really messing up this hole is good. Really easy to mess up. This hole is actually the only one in the entire game that I managed to do hole-in-one once.
But again, the hole in the green is random, so it's kind of very special moment, I guess.
Tap a little bit shorter. Yeah, as you saw, I took kind of a weird shot there. This course has like a lot of trees, which are right in the way of many shots in some of the holes. In the previous hole, I kinda aimed to the right and then back with an hit it with some effect to the left. Because if you shoot straight to the green in that hole, you just hit the tree, bounces back. Kind of a mistake there to land with the drop in the second shot, but not a big deal. Okay, no wind here, that's good. This is one of the holes where you really don't want strong wind, because you want to take that shot right between the trees. And yeah, this run is essentially glitchless, but
This game has glitches.
I mean, the only glitch I ever found is when the game froze once on me for no reason. So not something you want to happen. Not a good hole, but that whole position was pretty awkward. If you like this, I really recommend you look up the tool assisted speedrun for this game. It is absolutely hilarious. It is hilarious. Pretty much the thing that made me want to run this game, tool assisted speedrun. Then I realized it's pretty much impossible doing the things that they do in the tasks. But still, it's a fun time. Here you have to pay attention. Lower significantly. Go to a weaker club in order to land there. Hit it hard in order not to land in the water a little bit too hard. But this is better than landing in the water. Oops, I didn't want to do that. I shouldn't have gone. Didn't want to go down up there. That's what happens if you. That'll happen if you miss the blue zone in the second meter. You land in the red, you just whiff.
For overpar.
This is probably the hardest back 9 in the game. Almost every single hole is difficult for one reason or another. Right on the green. Oh, that's a really nice putt.
Really, really nice. Race for birdie.
Flies for birdie.
Okay, this is a fun hole,
Player 1.
if I can get it right. To here. No, I didn't get it right. I hit a tree trying to do that.
1 stroke penalty.
I think I'll just hit it straight for now. I'll still hit that tree into the bunker. Yeah, it landed at kind of an awkward spot after the first hit.
Player 1. Takes shot. On the green.
It's already for double bogey.
Player 1 for double bogey.
It's difficult that every hole goes right.
Penalty for over par.
And the next hole is one of the hardest in the game as well.
Player 1. Tee shot. Out of bounds.
In fact,
1 stroke penalty.
really hard to aim this right.
Third shot.
That's better.
Okay.
Player 1. Fourth shot. On the green.
The game doesn't want to give you anything free.
Alright. Now at least we have a little bit of a break in the run, because the first 7 holes in the USA course are pretty straightforward.
Player 1. Second shot.
I still can mess them up if I'm not careful, of course. The thing in this game is, for many holes, if your tee shot, if your first shot just goes wrong, it goes in the rough or in a bunker or somewhere awkward. In some holes, it's just really difficult to keep playing after that to recover. So if you hit it wrong the first time, you pretty much hit it out of bounds every time thereafter until the game kicks you out and sends you to the next hole. As I said, that's never the optimal strategy for any hole.
Flies for birdie. Player 1. Tee shot.
And how long have you been running this game?
Not a whole lot. Started summer this year, actually. I started playing it with a friend, kind of casually,
Flies for
and I thought, especially after watching that to assist experience, I thought, wouldn't it be fun to speedrun this game?
1. Tee shot.
And it actually is.
I think that you have to think a lot in order to get the fire cycle in the hit. It makes the game very dynamic and very
It's
fast
really
speedrun.
it's really fast paced. It probably doesn't look like it because of all the cutscenes and all that. You actually don't have a lot of room to take a break here. Let's say you just have to, when you finish hole, you have to start thinking about the next one. Think, okay, what do I have to do? Because if you start thinking about the next hole when it shows up, you just don't have enough time to react to everything. As I said, first holes in the USA circuit, not too bad. And but have either of us played golf in real life? Not a single time.
Me neither. I can't imagine myself going to do this, but who knows? Maybe someday.
I mean, I'd probably want to try at some point. That's just hasn't happened yet. That's not going to run into a green. If you are right next to the green, it's still worth using a putter, even if getting it in from outside the green is really difficult. It just makes it easier to at least approach the hole. I can appreciate that this game. Also, a really fortunate location for that hole. This is one of the hardest greens in the game. If the hole is on one of those hills, it's really awkward to assess this slope. So, pretty good luck there. Yeah, as I said, I can appreciate this game for, like, it doesn't have a lot of crazy gimmicks, like Mario Golf level gimmicks. It doesn't really have that. But they're really fun to play. Right, that's going to be a hell of an awkward shot. Don't go out of bounds, okay. Yeah, this hole is also pretty awkward. That's good. Yeah, the facial expressions are the best.
The graphics and the music is very good in this game. It really feels a Neo Geo game.
This is probably the hardest part 3 in the game. Alright, not out of bounds. This is probably the hardest part 3 in the game because it's a really long hole. You need to use a wooden club, even with Fernando Almeida, the most powerful golfer in the game, which makes it really difficult to hit precisely. And I even got very strong wind, so yeah. Even if I landed in the rough on the first shot, I'll take it. That's good. That's a bit of an awkward spot for the hole. That's good.
Okay, good.
The longest drive. So far I haven't won any contest, which is good. This may be the first. No, actually.
Okay.
Because when you get a contest, alright, it's possible to get it in the green in this shot. It's hard, but it's possible. Still really good hole. Thing with contests is that the distance required to win is also random. The holes the contests appear are random, and the distance required to win are also random. Let me read this. Oops, that may go too far. No, it's okay. Really wanted to check the notes in there because this hole is kind of dangerous. If you go blind, probably go out of bounds. Because probably the most strange gimmick in this game is that some of the holes aren't really unrealistic. For example, that there are some holes that it seems like the world is split into just for the sake of having a golf course. A very strong headwind, so I'll go up a club. It's an awkward pad, but okay. Yeah, very good hole.
Very nice. Very nice.
Flies for birdie. Player 1.
Here it seems like there are a lot of bunkers, but it's actually fairly easy to hit it through the middle of them.
Player 1. Second shot. On the green. Player 1. Birdie try.
Right?
Flies for
Another par 3 next. You gotta pay very close attention in par 3s.
closest to the pin contest.
Be close to pin. Close to pins are usually not that big of a deal. You usually won't win them. Right. Short.
Player 1. Second shot.
No big deal.
Player 1. For par. Player 1. For bogey.
The grain made so I missed that last part. Double bogey this one. Not ideal.
Penalty for over par.
Yeah, if you get over par, the game takes away balls from you. In the arcade would mean you'd have to put in a quarter earlier.
Player 1. Third shot.
It's the croissant green. And it's, yeah, this, the hole is right in the slope of the croissant. It's in a really awkward spot.
Player 1. For bogey.
Probably one of the worst spots where it could be.
Penalty for over par.
Okay, one of the hardest holes in the game here. See if I can make this second shot.
Player 1. Second shot.
Oh, aim it carefully. Don't go out of bounds, it went out of bounds. Too strong.
Penalty. Once more. Player 1. Fourth shot.
Right. Okay. Hit a tree, but right
Okay.
back into the fairway.
Player 1. Fifth shot. On the green. Player 1. For bogey. Player 1. For double bogey.
Double bogey. Oh no!
The facial expressions are interesting because they are basically reused for every character in the game.
Player 1. Tee shot.
Like, some things change. Some wear a cap. Some of them have a mustache.
Player 1. Second
the basic animations are the same for everyone, which is interesting. Of course, limitations of the time and such, but... Right, that was a tough part. And we are going right into the last circuit. Australia is not necessarily easier than USA, at least for me. I choose to do it last because it has the most amount of holes which have a potential to be an eagle, and eagles are always high, so I like to save them for the end. Let's see if we can see some, at least one. We got one at the beginning of the run, so at least I'm happy about that. I wanted at least one.
I did it!
Flies for birdie. Player 1, tee shot.
I'm pretty much mashing in between every hole. Some cutscenes can't be skipped, some of them can. For example, this text box, which pops up at the beginning of every shot, can be sped up if you press A.
Player 1, birdie try.
And this is unskippable. This is unskippable, but then there's like there's a result table that pops up. You can skip it, and the introduction of the next hole you can skip it unless it has a contest. Now explain the mechanic that I'm using in some of the holes, which is backspin. For example, in that hole, I gave it a little bit of backspin to stop the ball from rolling too far. You can also use topspin, but that's not nearly as useful.
Player 1, tee shot.
Of wind here. This is a potential eagle hole. There's a whole lot of wind. Right.
Player 1, eagle try. Player 1, birdie try.
Okay, well, birdie, I guess.
Good enough.
I did it!
Flies for
As I said.
Player 1, tee shot.
The game doesn't really owe anything to you, in the sense that it doesn't make any concessions.
Player 1, second shot.
Heavy wind here as well, but fine. A little bit of an awkward but
Player 1, birdie try.
that's not going to be enough. Or at least going to be closer.
Player 1, for par.
Par!
Okay.
Player 1, tee shot.
Let's see. It's possible to make the green in one shot on this hole. You pretty much have to hit it on the... You see the power meter, not now because I'm putting. But the power meter regularly has like a green area at the very end.
Birdie try.
If you can land on that green area, you get some extra distance above the theoretical top distance of the club,
For birdie.
which can be a good or a bad thing.
Player 1, tee shot.
Because you have to be careful with that. There, for example, I'm going to get a little bit extra distance.
Player 1, second shot.
Oh, this is one of the most viable eagle holes. Also, what am I doing? I did again. So, what I tried to do is, out of muscle memory, I tried to go down a club and select a putter. The thing is, ooh, that was close. The thing is, if you try to go to a putter, but you are in a bunker or in a heavy rough, you can't. The game won't let you. So it instead will draw
Penalty for
rolled right back to the highest club.
The closest to the bean contest. Good luck.
That's
Player 1, tee shot.
this. There, a little bit of backspin to stop the ball there.
Player 1, birdie try.
That's an easy birdie.
I did it!
Flies 4, birdie. Player 1, tee shot.
You gotta take into account as well some factors like the wind affects you the most when you are using shorter clubs.
Player 1, birdie try.
For example, if you are driving from the tee with a wood one, for example, the wind doesn't affect you nearly as much. There's small things like that. Take into account.
Player 1, tee shot.
Okay, so the last 9 holes, no?
Yeah, that's back 9 the game. There I went for a very risky strat.
Player 1,
I
second shot.
tried to reach the hole in one hit. It's really difficult. You need a really strong shot, which I didn't get.
Birdie try.
At least I didn't land in the water, which is really common with you when you try to do that.
I think you miss a split at the time.
Yeah, last match. Yeah, I do have splits for every 9 holes, but
It doesn't matter.
Player 1, tee shot.
kind of an another awkward hole here. See if I can reach the
Right
green
way.
without hitting any trees. Now, hit it as high as possible. You usually want to hit the ball as high as possible in that second meter.
Birdie try.
First, because then you can hit the ball earlier, because the meter goes from high to low. And second, because in a lot of holes there's a lot of there's many trees in the way, and hitting the ball high just reduces the risk that you will hit one of them.
Good luck. Player 1, tee shot.
Right. It's another hole where you really don't want it to be wind, because if you have to adjust your shot, you'll most likely hit a tree. Nice putt. It was an awkward spot. I didn't think that would go in, actually.
Flies 4, birdie. Player 1, tee shot.
It's very close to a tree, but shouldn't be a problem.
1, second shot.
In the green. Nope.
Player 1, third shot.
Oof.
Player 1,
That's not going to. That's not going to go in. Like 95% of times. I gotta be careful in this next one.
Player 1, tee shot.
Hit it. Not too hard.
Fairway. Player 1, second shot.
This is kind of the worst, when the ball lands right at the top slope and you have to wait for it to roll all the way down. First it's slow, second it usually leaves the ball in a spot where it's awkward to putt.
Flies 4, birdie. The longest drive contest.
We have a longest drive here. We can.
1, tee shot.
This is a bit tricky. We can intentionally not hit it too hard, or not to win the longest drive. This bunker is not so
Player 1, second shot.
troublesome. You usually cannot make it to this green in 2 hits unless you have a really favorable tailwind. This bunker, however, is going to make me lose some. So, not so good. I think it should go in like this. Yeah. 3 holes left. Also one of the harder par 3s. Really easy to undershot or overshot it. And also you could hit a tree. The last 2 holes shouldn't be too bad. You could hit a tree there, that's why you want to hit high. A bit of a difficult putt there, but fine. And the last hole in the game. The timer ends right when I sink the ball in the hole here. And it's also a potential eagle hole.
See what happens.
What happens is I get it. Actually,
An eagle. Nice, nice.
nice eagle to end the run. Hype. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed the run. Yeah, see, we even won the last circuit, so we can enjoy the credits if we want. That was that was a pretty good last circuit actually. Yeah, there we have our trophy.
Congratulations.
Yeah, as I said, ideally you want to win every course, because that pretty much means you went fast. You have the least strokes. Yeah, as I said, hope you enjoyed this round. I know it's kind of unusual, kind of probably a little bit different than what you would expect from a speed run. As I said, really enjoyed the game. Really fun to run, and really fun to just play. You can play it, especially with a friend. It's a really good time. So also thank you to Rekitsune for being here with me.
Thank you for the run.
We can put our name in here. What do we write? That AAA. Typical.
Why not?
So yeah, I do believe we are done here with Big Tournament Golf. I do believe what follows now is Dune: The Battle for Arrakis on the Sega Genesis by a system of vibrant colors. So good luck to all the runs that follow, and keep enjoying the SpeedGaming Live Marathon.
Thank you, asazas. We will take a very short break and then be right back.